December 27, 1939. Nazca Desert, southern Peru. The morning air is cold, but the ground already radiates heat from yesterday's sun. A small propeller aircraft rattles above an endless plain of red stone and pale dust. American historian Paul Kosak presses his forehead against the aircraft window. The desert stretches beneath him like a forgotten ocean. First, he sees nothing, only emptiness, dry riverbeds, wind-scoured hills, endless silence. Then the lines begin to emerge. Straight paths etched into the earth, geometric forms crossing the desert floor. And suddenly, an enormous bird. Its wings stretch wider than the aircraft itself. Nearby, another figure appears, a spider. Then a monkey with spiraling tail loops curling across the plateau. Kosak freezes. From the ground, these markings are almost invisible, but from the sky they become impossible to ignore. Below him lies one of the greatest archaeological mysteries on Earth, the Nazca Lines. For centuries, travelers crossed the Peruvian desert without understanding what surrounded them. Spanish conquistadors passed nearby in the 16th century, mentioning strange paths in the sands. But no one realized the scale of what existed there. Even local communities often viewed them simply as old trails or scars upon the land. The desert kept its secret because it was designed for the sky. The Nazca civilization flourished along Peru's southern coast between 500 BCE and 500 CE. Living in one of the driest places on Earth, the Nazca built irrigation systems, ceremonial centers, and intricate pottery. Their greatest achievements spread across nearly 450 square kilometers of barren plateau. Gigantic geoglyphs. Some stretch for kilometers in perfectly straight lines. Others form immense animal figures. Hummingbirds, condors, whales, monkeys, spiders. The sheer precision seems almost impossible. The Nazca Desert is uniquely suited for preserving such fragile creations. The region receives almost no rain. Winds remain minimal. By removing the dark surface rocks, the Nazca revealed pale lines underneath, creating enormous drawings visible from above. Simple methods, extraordinary results. Archaeologists discovered wooden stakes hammered into the ground, evidence of surveying techniques maintaining astonishingly straight paths. Some lines extend beyond the visible horizon with barely any deviation. No advanced machinery, no aerial technology, only human hands, ropes, stakes, and relentless labor beneath the desert sun. In the 1940s, German mathematician Maria Reich entered the story. She would dedicate nearly her entire life to studying and protecting the Nazca Lines. Reich walked the desert for decades with measuring tapes, notebooks, and a broom. Under brutal heat, she mapped figures by hand, fighting to preserve the site from modern roads and urban expansion. By mid-20th century, aircraft photography transformed archaeological understanding. Pilots captured images revealing hundreds of hidden forms invisible at ground level. Some figures overlap older ones, suggesting creation over many generations. Why would an ancient civilization invest enormous labor into images seen only from above? At first, scholars dismissed the lines as primitive roads or accidental markings. But aerial photographs changed everything. The monkey's curled tail, the hummingbird's perfectly balanced wings. These were not random marks. They were messages written upon the earth itself. The Nazca people left no written explanation. No surviving texts. The Nazca Lines were never meant to be viewed from the ground. They were created for something above. The desert at dawn feels almost frozen. Cold air drifts across the Nazca Plateau as the first sunlight spills over the Andes Mountains. Shadows stretch across the ancient geoglyphs, revealing shapes that disappear again once the overhead sun arrives. Archaeologists kneel beside shallow grooves carved into the earth nearly 2,000 years ago, brushing away dust grain by grain. In silence, they follow the lines. Not from the sky, but from within them. For decades, many outsiders imagined the Nazca Lines as giant pictures meant only to be seen from above. Yet when researchers began walking the geoglyphs themselves, a different possibility emerged. The lines were not simply images. They were pathways, ceremonial routes carved into sacred ground. The Nazca civilization lived in one of the harshest environments in South America. Rain was rare. Rivers appeared seasonally, fed by distant mountain runoff. Survival depended entirely on water hidden beneath the desert. And in ancient societies, water was never merely practical. It was spiritual. Excavations around Nazca ceremonial centers revealed offerings buried beneath certain lines. Fragments of pottery, shells carried from the Pacific coast, woven textiles, remains of ritual objects deliberately smashed before burial. Archaeologists also discovered evidence of gatherings near the geoglyphs. Groups of people may have walked these immense paths during ceremonies. Ceremonies connected to fertility, agriculture, or divine worship. The desert itself became a ritual stage. One of the most important sites connected to the Nazca culture lies at Kawachi, a massive ceremonial center constructed from adobe platforms and pyramids. Though often called a city, archaeologists believe Kawachi functioned primarily as a religious complex, where pilgrims gathered for festivals and rituals. From the surrounding hills, some of the Nazca lines appear to radiate outward towards sacred locations, like spokes on a wheel, not random, organized, intentional. Researchers began noticing another strange pattern. Many straight lines align with natural landmarks, mountains, water sources, and horizon points, where the sun rises during specific seasons. In Andean belief systems, mountains were considered living spiritual entities, powerful beings connected to rain, fertility, and survival. To the Nazca people, the landscape itself may have been sacred, and the geoglyphs may have formed part of a larger spiritual map linking earth, sky, and water together. In the 1940s and 1950s, Maria Reich proposed one of the most influential theories about the lines. She believed many geoglyphs had astronomical significance. Certain pathways and figures aligned with celestial events such as solstices and star positions. For years, her work captured worldwide attention. Under the scorching Peruvian sun, Reich meticulously measured angles and directions, convinced the desert functioned as a giant astronomical calendar. Later researchers challenged aspects of her theory, arguing that some alignments could occur by coincidence across such a massive network of lines. Yet even critics acknowledged something remarkable. The Nazca people possessed sophisticated environmental and geometric knowledge. They understood scale, precision, orientation. Without modern surveying tools, they transformed an entire desert into a symbolic landscape, visible across kilometers. And they accomplished it with astonishing simplicity. Experimental archaeologists later attempted to recreate Nazca geoglyphs using only wooden stakes and rope grids. The results demonstrated that large figures could indeed be produced accurately without needing aerial views. The builders may never have seen the complete designs themselves, at least not in the way modern observers do. Instead, they likely relied upon mathematical planning and inherited techniques passed through generations. These were engineers of ritual space, masters of environmental design. August 12, 1968.
Nazca Desert, Peru.
The heat rises in shimmering waves from the ground. A team of researchers stands beside a narrow geoglyph stretching across the plateau, like a scar cut into the earth itself. Boots crunch against iron-rich stones. Measuring equipment clicks softly in the silence. Above them, a small aircraft circles. From the ground, the line seems meaningless, just a shallow trench disappearing toward the horizon. But aerial photographs reveal something extraordinary. The trench is part of a colossal geometric design extending for kilometers. One of hundreds, perhaps thousands. Despite decades of study, scientists still cannot fully explain why. The mystery only deepened as competing theories emerged. Some scholars believed the lines formed part of a giant ceremonial network, tied to water rituals and religious processions. Others argued they represented astronomical alignments, linked to seasonal calendars. A few researchers proposed they functioned as territorial markers between ancient communities. Then came the more sensational claims. By the late 20th century, the Nazca lines had become internationally famous. Books and television programs began suggesting impossible explanations. Ancient astronauts, alien landing strips, messages to beings from the sky. The theories spread rapidly. The lines possess a strange psychological power when viewed from above. The sheer scale feels modern, intentional, almost unnatural, but archaeologists pushed back hard against these ideas. There was no evidence of extraterrestrial involvement, no advanced technology hidden beneath the plateau, no artifacts beyond what belonged within known Nazca culture. Experimental studies showed humans could create the geoglyphs with simple tools. Wooden stakes discovered at line endpoints confirmed ancient survey methods. Radiocarbon dating connected the lines between 500 BCE and 500 CE. The real achievement was not supernatural. It was human, and perhaps that reality was even more astonishing. Ancient people organized enormous labor projects in one of the driest deserts on Earth. Not to build walls or monuments, but symbols only visible from above. Why invest so much effort into something difficult to see? Some proposed the lines were designed for movement itself. Certain pathways appear compacted from repeated walking. Wide trapezoid shapes resemble gathering areas or ceremonial corridors. Priests and pilgrims may have walked in ritual processions across the desert. Others noticed connections to underground water systems. Beneath the Nazca Desert lies a hidden network of aquifers. Several geoglyphs point toward ancient water channels known as puquios, spiral-shaped wells still visible today in southern Peru. Such pathways held spiritual significance tied to survival. Then there were the mountains. In Andean cosmology, peaks were worshipped as divine beings. Some Nazca lines align toward distant mountains along the horizon. The desert itself becomes a map of belief. Researchers began using drones and AI to scan the desert. Japanese teams identified dozens of previously unknown geoglyphs hidden beneath erosion. February 3, 2023, Nazca Province, southern Peru. The desert is silent except for the faint hum of drone rotors cutting through the morning air. Below, archaeologists stare at tablet screens glowing beneath the harsh sunlight. Digital terrain maps flicker across the display. Ridges, stones, faint scars hidden beneath centuries of dust. Then one researcher stops moving. A shape begins to emerge from the scan. At first it appears random, broken lines, distorted angles, but as software enhances the terrain, the image sharpens into something unmistakable. A human figure, arms raised, eyes enormous. Another geoglyph lost for centuries has been found. Even after nearly 100 years of investigation, the Nazca Desert continues revealing secrets. And that may be the most unsettling truth of all. We still do not know how many lines remain hidden beneath the sands. The Nazca Plateau stretches across vast regions of southern Peru. Each generation of technology uncovers more forgotten markings. Drone surveys, satellite imaging, and artificial intelligence are rewriting archaeological maps almost yearly. Geoglyphs once erased by erosion suddenly reappear through digital reconstruction. Some are tiny and abstract. Others are enormous enough to span entire hillsides. Each discovery forces scientists to reconsider how sophisticated the Nazca civilization truly was. Because the lines were never isolated artworks. They formed an entire sacred landscape. A civilization-sized expression carved directly into the earth. Yet despite decades of research, the greatest mystery remains untouched. Why create them at all? Theories continue to compete with one another. Many archaeologists now agree the geoglyphs likely served multiple purposes across centuries. Ritual processions may explain certain pathways. Water worship connects naturally to Nazca survival in one of Earth's driest climates. Astronomical alignments appear convincing in some cases but inconsistent in others. No explanation fully solves the puzzle, and perhaps none ever will. The Nazca people left behind pottery, textiles, ceremonial centers, and burial sites. But unlike civilizations such as the Maya or Egyptians, they left no surviving written language. No inscriptions, no carved historias, only lines. Endless lines crossing the desert beneath the open sky. Archaeologists discovered evidence of elaborate rituals involving music, hallucinogenic plants, and ceremonial gatherings. Painted ceramics depict supernatural beings carrying severed heads, symbols of fertility rites and spiritual transformation in ancient Andean cultures. To the Nazca people, the boundary between physical and spiritual worlds may have been thin. The desert may have functioned as sacred territory where humans communicated with forces beyond ordinary life. And when you stand upon the plateau at sunset, surrounded by silence stretching in every direction, the Nazca Desert does not feel empty, it feels watched. The famous animal figures intensify that sensation. The hummingbird appears perfectly balanced despite its gigantic scale. The spider resembles species associated with rain in Andean mythology. The condor stretches across the plateau like a shadow frozen in flight. Many figures can only be fully recognized from above. That fact still disturbs modern researchers. Not because it suggests impossible technology, but because it reveals something profound about human imagination. The Nazca civilization conceived images larger than individual experience itself. In a sense, the builders trusted in perspectives they themselves could never fully possess. The lines are evidence of abstract thinking on a monumental scale. And then there is the final haunting detail. The Nazca lines survived largely because the desert preserved them by accident. Heavy rains linked to climate shifts have already damaged portions of the plateau. Illegal mining, urban expansion, and careless tourism continue threatening fragile sections of the site. In 2018, a truck driver accidentally crossed protected geoglyph areas, leaving deep tire marks. As darkness falls, the giant figures disappear into shadow. Only the stars remain above the plateau.